Welcome to our talk today. We're going to be speaking about riding the application integration train, and we're going to visit the haunted data warehouse with FME. And with me today is going to be the City of Guelph, a project that Spatial DNA collaborated with the City of Guelph. So I'm pleased to introduce Alex Brosseau, who is the Program Manager for GIS and Data at the City of Guelph. He'll be talking about the overview of two projects that we collaborated on together at the city. My name is Todd Lewis. I'm the founder and CEO of Spatial DNA. We're an FME solutions provider, and we helped Alex to deliver this program. The first talk is going to be Ride on the Application Integration Train. We're going to be talking about a project we did integrating Oracle's work and asset management system with ikubINFO's RoadPatrol. In the second project, we're going to be going through the replacement of a Microsoft data warehouse, retirement of SSIS integration scripts, and the transition of all of this over to the FME platform for ongoing maintenance and adaptation.
Let me go into a little bit of details about the City of Guelph first, and then I'll talk about some of the high-level information about the project. City of Guelph is city of 135,000 plus residents, and we're one of the fastest growing cities in Ontario. We have a planned population growth of 50% over the next 30 years. Infrastructure and supporting systems portfolio are also rapidly changing and expanding with the surge of new development. The corporation of the City of Guelph is also undergoing a cultural shift with increased emphasis on data-driven decisions to support the goals of their strategic plan. The first project that we'll talk about today is our integration with Oracle's work and asset management system, affectionately known as WAM, with ikubINFO's RoadPatrol application. These are two key operational systems that are used heavily within our public works department. A few of the main challenges around this project. The City of Guelph has been using road patrolling applications for a number of years to maintain minimum maintenance standards for our local roads. This is important to make sure that we're keeping information about the frequency of inspection as well as the repair of any deficiencies that are found on our roadways. Some of the problems around that was that the data that we were collecting around these deficiencies, potholes and things of that nature, was in a single system, while the work that was being done against them was being managed within our Oracle work and asset management system. And that's where we were tracking labor costs, material usage, but the two systems weren't talking together. So while we were doing a good job of meeting the goals of the minimum maintenance standards, it was quite a lot of work and quite a lot of workaround in order to get these two systems to be up to date independently.
So basically the solution here was to leverage ikubINFO's integration with the ArcGIS Online service. So ArcGIS Online has a feature service that's exposed to the RoadPatrol application. So RoadPatrol collects the information in a mobile platform with map-based data. All of that is returned back to ArcGIS Online. And all of the work orders that we would need to add or process are stored in work and asset management system in an Oracle database. So on a schedule, we would essentially look up the AGOL service and read any new road defects that were identified by field workers there. Any defects we retrieve, we create a new work order in the work and asset management system, and we'd update the defects on the RoadPatrol side with the work order ID. So that way we've got a link in work and asset management and in the RoadPatrol system. So we know that a work order has been linked there. And then if something goes wrong in that transaction, there's an error management framework. So we'll notify anybody for any kind of synchronization or other error that comes up in that particular workflow. The other aspect was really checking for repair information. So on the RoadPatrol side, they're also collecting repair information that's reflected into ArcGIS Online. And once that repair is completed, so the crew's going out, filling a pothole, fixing a broken guardrail, once those repair works are completed, they can essentially close that work order in the RoadPatrol application, and we can likewise close the work order in the work and asset management system. And then essentially all of that information around equipment, material, and labor costs that are stored in the work and asset management system it can be reflected back into other systems. So there's a couple of tips that we'd identified when we went through this project. So one was looking at decoupling the workflows into sort of the systems or the objects that you're working with. So one, we were working with work orders. We were also working on the RoadPatrol side with defects. So we had a specific workspace that went and collected defect information, and a different workspace that was triggered in a FME automation to create the work orders in WAM. So decoupling these made it easier to enable these systems to be replaced, for example. So there's a project on the books right now to eventually replace work and asset management. When that system is replaced, it's a fairly simple integration just to re-implement the work order creator in that new system. The other thing that's quite nice is the automation writers. So it's a simple and elegant way to pass data through an automation workflow in FME automations, right? So being able to write out that defect information into essentially a datagram or a message, and that information can be passed on to the WAM work order creator, reading it as a datagram, as a little message, and being able to then write those work orders out to WAM.
Okay, so the next project we're going to talk about is the integration or the migration to FME from our SSIS environment. This was, opportunity when we were doing some life cycling of some servers to take our data warehousing environment into a new environment, focusing on FME for our data requirements. This was a really good opportunity to leverage what we had already implemented with FME for some of the other requirements we have in our organization, primarily in the geographic information systems space. So challenges were shifting from old systems. We wanted to stop using some of the legacy systems that were built by some of the employees who are long gone. So really no one really knew how these systems were working. We wanted to build on technologies that we were more familiar with and would take us to a point where we were able to use things within the data warehouse to increase the use of visualizations and as I mentioned earlier, sort of accommodate the requirements for that data-driven decision making. We had legacy systems in these old environments, primarily SSIS, but a few others that will be looked at in a little bit more detail here shortly. And of course, we wanted to leverage the fact that we already have FME as an enterprise solution. So the capabilities within FME, we wanted to really start utilizing more.
So looking at essentially where Guelph was and how to move some of that forward. So previously SSIS read from and wrote data from various systems, various databases, communicated with Active Directory, and shifted information back and forth between various FTP sites. The data quality services were also used for data standardization. So this was really around, primarily around employee information. So really standardizing or correcting job title information, primarily. There were some other things, department names and whatnot, that were standardized using the SQL Server data quality services. The other thing that we found is that there were a number of SSIS packages. So you could think of basically a package being an ETL or a load script that had overlapping functionality. So this is, it basically wasn't a very good componentization of the same capabilities. So all of this really was easily replaced by FME workspaces, right? Tapping into the various internal and external data sources and taking some of those packages with overlapping functionality and standardizing that as an automation or as custom transformers so that capability could be reused in the FME context. So what we did basically is reviewing all of the SSIS and DTUS packages, right? So that we could understand what they were actually trying to do, what the intent was, what they were actually doing, and then look at how we would reflect that same capability in the FME environment. A lot of the similar packages on the SSIS were recombined into single workspaces where we used user parameters to provide configurability to that particular package or that particular functionality. And then common functionality, common lookups, things like that were replaced with custom transformers. And then the last thing that was a little bit more complex was really interfacing with Active Directory to be able to both read information from Active Directory and update information. And this was most apparent in a lot of what we were using, or what Guelph is using DQS and SSIS for, was basically taking employee information that was stored in Oracle JD Edwards Enterprise One, and reflecting that back into the Active Directory. So things like position titles, department, things like that. So we needed an approach to be able to read Active Directory users, compare those against what was stored in JDE, do a change detection. So, hey, there's some people that might have moved around departments or changed job titles, and then go ahead and update the Active Directory with that new sort of organizational and job information. So a couple of the tips here, if the workspaces are doing the same or similar things, really focus on reusability. So if you can take some of that commonality and turn that into a custom transformer with user parameters that can be used for configuration of that common functionality, and then basically combining a lot of that into one workspace, leveraging user parameters to more control a workflow. So a lot of this minimizes the development time as well. If there's any issues or errors through the work process, it's fairly quick to identify where those challenges are. And from a maintenance point of view, it also makes it a lot easier to understand what's going on.
All right. So as far as benefits go, a few things that were proven out through the project. The first of which was flexibility. Data management became easier than the traditional Microsoft methods that we were using in the past. And additionally, our current staff, we've made investments in not only the software technology with FME, but also investment in training, where my data team is focused on using FME technology for doing these things, so we can abandon some of these older uses of Microsoft. Next is the automation, real time or near real time updating of multiple systems with no manual touch from any of our staff. This is key for us to make sure that things run well. And then lastly is stability. Since we've implemented, we've had no hiccups or glitches. So we're really pleased with the stability of the environment. So FME at the City of Guelph is a really important tool for us. With RoadPatrol, the city was able to start maintaining information in two systems on the operational side, and making sure that we are in fact compliant with the requirements in the minimum maintenance standards. We were also able to ease the maintenance of master data management and enabled non-development staff to manage these data integrations. And this was very key based on the makeup of my staff. And it was very helpful to have Spatial DNA involved in the process to sort of guide us through how to effectively use this technology.
So thanks for attending this session. We're open for Q&A. Just to let you know, we will be putting together, we're working on a case study with City of Guelph on both of these scenarios that will go into a little bit more depth than we were able to here. Alex, any words from you?
Yeah, just absolutely happy to have you reach out if you had more questions about this particular project or our general use of FME and how we work with Spatial DNA to get that work done.